Hey everyone, Amy here, presenter and producer of the Eerie Excursion podcast, the podcast that takes a left turn into the shadows to hear haunted and creepy tales from around the UK, as told by local tour guides and experts. So last week we had the release of season 2, episode 2, and it was the first of many trips up north this season. So this episode was in Chester. So, as I say in the episode, Chester sits just on the Welsh border. So, here it is in this video here. It's just south of Liverpool and also south of Manchester. So, my guide here was Marianne, and she had honestly so many stories to tell that I actually couldn't fit them all into the episode. So, don't worry, I'm doing sort of a bonus content episode after the season has finished. So you got that to look forward to. But anyway, we were walking down Chester Street, and Marianne would constantly be like, there's a ghost in that building, there's a ghost there, there's a ghost here. It was honestly crazy. And she really is like Chester's ghost expert, as far as I can tell. In fact, she'd actually written two editions of her City of Chester books because during COVID, she released one edition. And then during COVID, she found so many more stories. And she constantly goes back to these places to hear about the different activity and the different stories. So she really is a wealth of knowledge. And if you want to hear more stories beyond this video and beyond the episode, we definitely check out her book. You can buy it online. This isn't a paid ad. I just think that she is very knowledgeable. Definitely check her out. So anyway, back to the episode and back to Chester. So to give you a sense of kind of what the city is like, this is a picture here. Now, it's very sort of oldie worldy. The picture here shows Eastgate, which is that one at the very back, that sort of like walkway, which is Marianne talks about the walkways in the episodes. It's really cool. They run throughout the city and you can walk along them. They're not like York's walls. They weren't fortified. They were genuinely there for leisure. Chester very much is a city of leisure, even though, in the Anglo-Saxon times and the Roman times it was fortified. By the time you get to the Georgians and the Victorians, it very much becomes a shopping place. And as you saw from those old sort of like Tudory buildings, like a lot of the shops are very old. They've got modern high street shops in them now, but their buildings are very old. So it's really lovely just like walking down the streets. And if you go there shopping and for leisure, you're kind of part of this history of Chester being this leisure town. But obviously, you guys are here for the ghosts. So here's a clip from a pub called the Pied Bull.
There is a ghost in the cellar who is gormless. And to my mind, he shouldn't be a ghost because we're going back to way before electricity. So if you wanted more beer, the landlord or somebody had to go down in the cellar with a jug and fill it up with beer and then bring it up. And there'd be no lighting apart from candles. By the end of the evening, the stone steps, already worn, would be damp as well as worn. So he went down the steps with the jug in one hand and for some reason, a knife in the other. And he slipped and he fell and he went over and over and landed at the bottom. The jug was smashed and the knife was firmly embedded in his stomach. And he is still complaining about it to this day. But the man who makes the beer in the microbrewery down there, he's never seen him at all, but other people have. They'll be at the top of the stairs and they'll see him walking past the bottom of the stairs.
So there's actually 3 ghosts in the Pied Bull, and Marianne goes into detail into 2 of them, one of which you heard just now. The second one that she goes into detail about is at the back of the pub, which is from that video. You can see that I kind of panned down the back of the pub and I walked down it. back there is where a fire took place, and a horse and its rider both tragically passed away in the fire, but have been seen since their untimely deaths. So that's the other stories from the Pied Bull. Now, I'll be honest with you, I got really wrapped up in Chester that I forgot to take more. I really wish I took more photos and videos for you guys. So I do apologize for that. The next story, actually, that I want to chat to you about takes place on the same street, a couple of doors down from the Pied Bull, at a place called the Blue Bell. Now, this is nice because, in my experience of going on these tours, we don't often know the name of the ghosts that we see or feel or hear, but this one we do. So, in the window of the Bluebell, sorry, in the window of the Bluebell, you can see has been spotted a woman called Henrietta. Now, Henrietta is from the English Civil War, and she is said to be sitting at the window waiting for her love to return from the war, which is a lovely and sad and tragic and romantic and all those things ghost story. Now, this story I'm ending the video on, but actually is the very first story in the episode. So it takes place outside of a shop called Scented Gardens. And the reason why I'm telling you about this story, so the story is essentially the shopkeeper sees a woman, the shopkeeper sees a man, sorry, who they believe that he's like of Georgian dress. They don't know who he is. He's a little bit cheeky. You can listen to the full story in the episode. The reason why I'm pulling this out is because this was the one and only time in any of my recordings in season 1 and in season 2 where I genuinely did feel something outside of that shop. And I'm not claiming to be a psychic. I'm not somebody that I've had weird things happen to me, but oftentimes I do, if I'm in an old building, very often if it's an antique building, or there's just a lot of energy that's not necessarily human, it's like maybe attached to objects and things like that, my knees feel weird. And I had that outside of Scented Gardens. I just felt this energy that just wasn't human. It wasn't Marianne, it wasn't the buzz of the shops. It was just like I could feel my knees go quite weak there. And it didn't continue for the rest of the recording. So it definitely was something in the Scented Gardens. So it was a really good story. But and when you listen to the episode and you hear that story, just know that Amy was feeling something at that time. So as always, these videos really are just sort of snippets and highlights and kind of behind the scenes of the episode. So to listen to the full episode of Chester, head to the YouTube channel. It's in the podcast playlist, Eerie Excursions. And make sure you subscribe so you don't miss an adventure. So next time we're going to be in Nottingham, where there's more than just Robin Hood legends. See you then.